Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with return guest Mitch Russo. You can find him at marketeroftheday.com/118. He has a first book out called The Invisible Organization, and his new latest and greatest venture is called Power Tribes. He has a lot to say about certifications, about his new SaaS platform for coaches, so much to get into. Mitch Russo used to work for Tony Robbins, for Chet Holmes. He's built a 25 million plus business. He's been nominated twice for Inc. Magazine Entrepreneur of the Year. So much to talk about as far as running your business right, scaling rapidly. Mitch, glad to be talking to you again.
Yes, Robert, as you said, it's been a while. How time flies, huh?
Yeah, and like the technology, it becomes simpler and grows as we go. I'm pretty sure the last time we talked, we were just on audio only on Skype, but since then the camera technology is better, the internet technology is better, and even after we talked, you mentioned about like guys like Brad Lee who have like the VT kind of like virtual training, and they have like these online universities, and even just you mentioning that kind of got into my head the whole idea of like slowly over time making your lighting better, your equipment better. And so that's what's led us here today. Now we're on video. Now we're in the modern age.
Yes, and I love your studio too. You obviously have taken a lot of care in arranging your video studio. It's fantastic.
Sort of, but it also looks lived in, right? You don't want things to be too clean. And I see that you've got your microphone, and even like I've kind of done like the microphone just out of the shot, and slowly making things look more respectable, but not too polished. I still want some roughness.
I hear you. It looks good. Looks good.
Well, cool. So speaking of looking good and doing good, what have you been up to lately? What has you excited?
Well, you know, I've been working with clients now for many years to help grow their business. I use the technology I developed for certification and creating Power Tribes. But what I found in my own business was that dealing with typically 5 to 7 clients a month, I was spending a lot of time on admin, to be honest. And I reached out last year, 2 years ago, I asked people in my mastermind for suggestions for some form of a coaching platform for dealing with all of the elements of a coaching business. And I got back some names. There are some good products out there, but I started investigating them one at a time. And I realized that they were all really hard to use. I mean, for me, they were hard to use. I'm not that bright, but I'm smart enough to see how things work. And I figured these are all very complicated. There's a lot of screens, a lot of places, a lot of modality to them. And I didn't like that. Then on top of that, the prices were high, like over $100 a month in some cases. And I said, you know what? I need a way to decrease the time I'm spending at the end of a session. So what I mean is that when I start a session, I have my Evernote open here, my spreadsheet open there. I have my calendar open here, my email open there, and I use a mind mapping tool, and that's open there. And then, of course, a browser for Zoom. So now I have 2 of these huge 27-inch screens covered with all these different windows that I'm supposed to figure out and navigate during the session, focusing on the client. And then afterwards, I have to collect all this stuff from all these different places and drop them into an email I call the homework email. 40 minutes later, I'm finally done. And after spending an hour with a client. So I decided I was going to simplify this whole process. And I was going to basically spend 5 minutes and not 40 by making everything available on one screen, and by making everything completely non-modal. So you can go from one thing to the other. You can add your notes, your homework, your Zoom link, set up your calendar for your next session. And I've added 2 very key factors which have helped me a lot in getting results for my clients. That's goal setting and accountability. Now, we have built-in systems that allow you to basically record numerically the progress your clients make every week on up to 6 different goals. This has provided a great insight because inside your one-screen system is a complete history panel that goes back to your first session. So now you can go back to any session, check their goals. The other thing we have is a accountability question system as well. So you could set up your accountability questions for anything you want for any or all of your clients. And when they answer those questions, you type in the abbreviated answers, that too is available in history forever. Now, on top of that, when you're done with your session, you look at your one screen, you correct any typos, I have plenty, and then from there you paste in your Zoom link. And if you have an attachment, you could right there in the system, you drop it into the screen, hit send, you're done. Now, how much does this normally cost? Like I said, I felt like it was a lot of money with these other vendors. I wanted to make it accessible and inexpensive. So we're going with $19.97 a month, and that's it.
Super cool. And like, there's so much to unpack in there. And kind of the way that my brain was visualizing what you're saying is that say you're in a position where you're a coach, you have a handful of monthly clients per month, like you threw out that number 4 to 6. Let's say you have 6 clients per month. There is a few options, right? There's the option of trying to keep it all in your head. Well, good luck with that, right? Your head might remember 3, but you can't remember 4. The other option seems to be that there are systems out there, but like you said, they charge like per seat and they can do everything. So that way, even just doing something simple requires all sorts of clicks. And then the other alternative is kind of what you set up there ad hoc, where you have 2 screens and all these different things. You have the Evernote and the calendar and the email, and that's another option. But that's kind of fulfills the requirements, but it's just like so many different systems. So finally, you kind of scratch your own itch, which is always, I think that's the most fun way to create software, is if you go and you see there are things out there that are kind of on the right track, and you personally have a need, and you kind of create the dream system that you would have had. And so am I hearing this right, that so you created this for yourself, but now anyone who is a coach that has clients can sort of set this system up? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So I initially, so before I started this project, I decided not to make the same mistake I made with my last project in software. And that is, I have a great idea. I know this will work. I'm going to build it and see what happens. So instead, what I did is I wrote a spec and I circulated it around a small group of what I thought of as professional coaches, and they are, some with multiple coaches in their organization. And I said, what do you think of this? And everybody had a good response. Said, yeah, we have the same problem as well. But the thing that for us is going to be, if it's expensive, we don't want to go near it. And if it's hard to learn, we have already too much to do. I can't expect people to be trained on everything new. So I said, if I make it low cost and easy to learn, would you be in? And they said, well, if it will handle more than, like, we have 12 coaches in our organization. So if it will handle 12 coaches, then the answer is yes. And so I, from the beginning, A, made it scalable, B, made it so that you could add coaches and each has their own session system. And number three, or C in this case, we made it so that it's basically a SaaS product. It's available anywhere. So you could use it on your tablet. You could use it on your computer screen. I wouldn't recommend using it on a phone. It's too small for note-taking and such. But we tried to make this quick, easy, simple to use. And now we are in the stage where the product is officially launching on May 7th, but we are working with beta testers now who are loving the system. And also, it's interesting. I know you know this, Robert, because you're a developer yourself. But all of a sudden, these little tiny things come back like, Mitch, did you realize the first name field requires at least 4 characters? I said, no, I had no idea. Well, Bob was the guy who figured this out, So we may, of course, fix things like that. But these are the little things that beta testers really help with. So we're cleaning all this stuff up now. Last step is to integrate the affiliate management system, and we're good to go.
Super cool. And I mean, right there, I mean, it's one of those like fundamental common sense things, but it's so easy to lose track of, is that idea of let other people use it, right? You didn't just sit it in your office and code out the first version of this. You made the spec and you circled that spec around and you said, well, is this too much? Is this too complicated? Take things away. What will you add? And you realize that like what other people thought was probably more important than what you would imagine people would want, because you might spend all this time adding these like basically dumb features, or the people that actually used it might give you ideas for new things to create. And so, and also it seems like if you do it right, it seems like there's a way to kind of get the magic in there, right? If like there's like the back and forth and people are using it and people are loving it. And have you ever, I mean, can you relate to that? Or are you better at articulating that into words than me, of just like, there's, you know, there's the tool, you're just like, I can build this tool, but then once you will get to using it, it becomes like kind of more fun. So, I mean, have you experienced that, just when it kind of takes a life of its own sort of thing?
Well, let me tell you how that becomes a two-way conversation. So I get an email about that one little bug that I told you about with the field length. So I get that email. It actually was a message on Signal from one of my guys, and he told me about this thing, and I quickly texted my development team in India, and I get up the next morning, I go look, and it's already fixed. So what now this becomes is a very interesting two-way conversation. So I write back my friend and said, yeah, it was a great suggestion. Try it now, it's fixed. He goes, what? How'd you do that so fast? So what's nice about this, and this is, by the way, what happened when I built time slips, my first foray into the software business in 1985. We had that same philosophy of feedback, fix, feedback, improve, feedback, improve. And the faster we did it, the more people loved the experience of being in the loop with us. And now, of course, I mean, time slips, when it was mature, was a very, very well-tuned product. Now what I'm doing with Clientfolio is I'm trying to do as much of the tuning as I can before it's available for general use. But if anybody today goes to the screen, goes to Clientfolio, which is FOL.io, they'll be able to basically set up an account and log in free for a 14-day trial. And you can see for yourself, you know, there's a 10-minute training video in there. 2 minutes of it is about me. The last 8 minutes is about how easy it is to use the software. So if you could sit through a 10-minute video, you'll know how to use Clientfolio.
Fantastic. You make it easy to use and powerful. And so with all of this, like, you know, staying current with the fine tuning and the back and forth, do you sometimes run out of gas, or do you sometimes find it like you need to like somehow re-energize and get yourself like staying on the ball? Because it seems like when we're talking about this person has this issue, this needs to be fixed, it seems like it'd be really easy to like take a break for a few days or a week and lose momentum. I mean, is that a problem for you, or just the fine tuning just come naturally?
I think it's the opposite. I am so energized by this process. I love the fact that people like what I'm doing. I love the fact that I'm building something that is for the masses, really for beginner coaches as well as advanced coaches. And when they use it, they love it. And so for me, this is an energizing process. I brought a support guy on board. I set him up with our, support system. But the fact is I love answering the support questions myself. Now, I can't do that forever, and I can't do it for more than the next few weeks, but I use that as a way of connecting with every one of the people who are trying the software. And that, it makes me energized. It makes me feel good. And I don't ever feel like, oh, I need a break from this. I even do it on the weekends because I just enjoy it.
And it seems like in your answer there, you mentioned that it won't be forever, and maybe that's part of it, right? And I think that lately I've been applying that mindset when it's appropriate. If I say, well, I'm hesitating about like hiring this person or like using this software, and so many times, especially lately, I've said, I'll give myself 2 months, I'll give myself 3 months to do a little bit of this every day. And for some reason, like knowing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that eventually I'll pass this off to someone else, it somehow like gives me a little bit more motivation. And it kind of makes me think of like, if you're running and you're like, I'm going to keep running until I get to that stop sign. You're like, well, it's somehow easier because there's a limited amount of time left until I need to finish, if that makes sense.
Well, you're a smart guy and you've done this before. So you're actually revealing something that's very valuable to listeners. And that is the fact that it's best for the person who creates it to actually not only use it, but understand how customers are using it. And I think it's important to stay involved in the beginning cycles, and then it's much easier to pass it off. So whether it's 2 months or 2 weeks or 3 months, it is until you fully grasp what it is that these people are dealing with, and you could direct them, then you pass it off and you elevate your time to a higher value use. That's how I think about it.
I like it. It's some thinking outside the box. It's you're not stuck being the person doing it, but you're also not. You're like somewhat hands on, but not only when it is appropriate. And so this coaching platform it's clientfol.io, or
Right.
is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yeah. It's clientfol.io. It's clientfolio as it reads, but the .io, I thought was kind of cool when I discovered that sequence in there. So I got the .io.
Right, .io is the hosted SaaS app platform, so it fits right in. And so
Yep.
so client folio, like, is it like can any coach use it, or is it tailored towards like specific industries? Like, who is it for? Who is it not for?
Well, it's for any coach that works remotely with their clients over Zoom or whatever platform, even telephone. It's for any coach that has clients where their goal is helping their clients make progress from session to session. Now, my technique is to send a summary email after each session that includes what I call homework or assignments. That is what I did in Client Folio. I made it so that it's easy to do that. Again, most clients want to receive a recording of the call. They may want to get, detailed information about what our conversation was in the notes field. I mean, a lot of people that I work with love the fact that I focus on goals and accountability. Now, my results, meaning the results that my clients are getting with me, have improved since I started using goal tracking and accountability questions.
Nice. So even if you were not selling it, which you are, selling access to it, but if you were the sole user of Client Folio, then you still would have had an increase in productivity.
Absolutely. Now, like I said, 5 to 7 minutes per session. I do quick spell check. I make sure I have the URL right or whatever it is that I need. And because it has a CC field, I could always send the homework to myself as well. So I could send it to my client. I send it to myself, just that I have a record of what the client is receiving.
Well, cool. Well, the way you describe it, it reminds me of when I first discovered CRMs, customer relationship management systems, where it's like, whoa, this whole time I was using a spreadsheet or I was using documents, and to have like that capability just from like a customer point of view of like, oh, I could go to this one customer and I can pull up like their whole history. I could make a note if I emailed them or called them on the phone, I could add a special like event. Suddenly it was like, well, it could be done with spreadsheets, but how cumbersome would that be? And it seems like this is kind of like taking that idea and then putting it on this coaching business where the homework and the to-dos and the accountability, sure, you could do it with spreadsheets and files, but why not cut that 45 minutes down into 5 minutes and like use a system that's meant for that?
That's my viewpoint as well. Now, again, just to be clear, I'm very detail oriented. Many coaches, maybe if you're a different type, like a health coach or a relationship coach, maybe you don't really have homework. Maybe you don't take a lot of notes, but you probably should take goals. I mean, probably should be tracking goals for your clients. And again, I did that before in a spreadsheet. It was okay, but it's nice to now have it incorporated where I could see everything at a glance. And I am reminded by the system every single time I'm in session to make sure that I fill out their statistics, and that helps me know how well the client is doing. And I can't imagine a coach who wouldn't need or want to help their client make progress faster.
Yeah, and even something that you mentioned there is like that whole kind of reminder system. I mean, that's huge right there too. And like same idea is sure you could have documents, could have spreadsheets, but then there's even an aspect of like remembering to go in and check off the things that you need to do each week. I mean, to have a system that reminds you, it seems like it simplifies it, and it also keeps things going consistent. And I want to make sure that as we plugged Client Folio, and I want to make sure if there's time to talk a little bit about Power Tribes and about this certification concept do you have? Do you think, does that fit in? Do we have time for that?
Yeah, I have time if you do. It's a
Yeah.
so I created the idea of tribe-based certification back in 1987 when I built it for my software company, Timeslips Corporation. And I won't go through the whole story, but we got into a lot of trouble doing it wrong, to the point where we were being threatened with lawsuits, multiple lawsuits. So what I did is I did a complete analysis of what went wrong with all of these different people that I had said were quote unquote certified. And I discovered a lot of things about human beings I had never really understood before. And what I decided to do at that point was rebuild the system from scratch, but this time create a framework, which we call culture, to make sure that the right people are there and that the people who are there are taking care of each other in a very warm and friendly way that makes working in our environment enjoyable. So I then started to work on the business model. And I found a way to create at least 3 and sometimes as many as 8 different recurring revenue streams when building a certification program. Now, when you put these two things together, and when you start certifying first your very best clients, because they obviously know your stuff better than anybody, the revenue opportunity is wonderful and very, very powerful. And what we found is that companies who what I call have lumpy revenue, where they have a release and then things die down, and then a year later or 2 years later, they have another release and it goes back down. What we do with certification is we smooth all of that out. So you do your release and then you certify people in your products, and then certification sells all year long. And now certification partners become your sales force at the same time. So it's quite an interesting alternate channel most people never think about. It's typically thought of as, well, big companies like Infusionsoft do that. And so the goal here is to let anybody do it, which is why I wrote the book Power Tribes, and why I have clients who hire me to help them build their certification programs.
And I think it's a super cool concept in general. And because like there's been so many times, even in like teaching something technical, I mean, it could be software, but it could just be something technical in general. There's always that need of, well, what if someone buys and they just want it done? And maybe I don't provide a done for you, and I want to plug specific students that are really good at that can provide that service. I mean, certification program makes perfect sense. I mean, you and I both know like the wish list guys, and same idea, right? They sell membership software, but then if someone wants it done, there's a group of people that pay yearly to take a test and be certified and have the seal and be in the directory. And like I have a coaching client that is a doctor who teaches other doctors, and kind of same idea, right? It's you have this procedure, you have a test, you have a directory, and then it's kind of like a two-way street, because someone like you said, that they pay money to be certified in like the off season when you're not launching that course. And so there's an income stream, and then they get a bunch out of that because now maybe you send some sort of traffic to them. But then, like you said, even just the fact that there are certified coaches in this system then helps promote the whole thing getting out there. And so you said that there's 3 revenue models, sometimes 8. And I know there's not time to even list them or go into them, but is there anything in particular that you think is like super clever on your part, or something that's like outside of the box, not usually visited as far as making money with a certification program?
Yeah, great question. So the obvious thing is that if you go to look at some of these coach certifications, most people pay once, get certified, they're done. We advise our clients to certify every year, as you had mentioned before. The second thing is, of course, is that when you have products or licenses, you empower your certified consultants to sell those for you. You give them a discount, they earn a little bit on that. Now you have a new sales channel. Third thing is, of course, is that if you are building a powerful certification program and we're not in the middle of a pandemic, then you have a symposium every year. You bring people into your symposiums. You spend 3 days having them learn more and more advanced stuff with you. You reveal some new products. You elevate the group. You charge them to be there. Third revenue stream. Then, of course, you have the back end. Now, what we do with every certification program we build is we create a separate CRM just for our certified coaches or consultants, and we feed that CRM with lead flow. Now, the lead flow comes from our past customers who never bought from us before. And now at this point, we are reintroducing the product through certification consultants or certified coaches. And now we're selling more of our past clients, and our certified consultants are making money through the sale and through the services that they would charge. I can go on and on. There's many of these different ideas that are all they're very naturally layered one on top of the other. So what we have found is that the other thing about a lot of certification programs is that they're flat, meaning you get certified and there it is, you're in this program and that's that. What we have found is that ascending coaches is a great revenue opportunity. Again, multiple streams of recurring revenue there too. We ascend our best coaches every year into mentorship, where they get to work with individual new coaches and earn a commission on what those folks are doing with their guidance while paying a higher fee to be a mentor. On and on. It's really quite amazing the incredible different ways you can create revenue using certification. Best part about it is that, remember, these folks are paying you. They are your sales force, but they're paying you. Now, I lay a lot of this out in my book, Power Tribes, which is a great way to come up to speed and read more about the ideas I'm talking about today.
And how do we all get a autographed or non-autographed copy of Power Tribes?
Well, I have a little bit of a free course that goes with it. If you go to powertribesbook.com, you can get the book on Amazon through my portal, but you can also get the free course that goes with it. It's about a $500 value. And bottom line is that it's a nice supplement to the book. I teach a lot more about tribes in the videos, and I think most people will enjoy it.
Fantastic. So powertribesbook.com. If any or all of that sounds appealing to you as a watcher or a listener of this podcast, of having kind of ascending your coaches into mentors and having this kind of sales force that promotes your brand for you plus pays you. I mean, it's a really cool concept. Powertribesbook.com is the place to grab that. And then Clientfolio, that's clientfol.io is the place to sign up and get that account. If you want to, if you're a coach who wants to kind of have a CRM type of system where you can run your appointments and store your Zoom links and have your goals and accountability and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything else you think that we mentioned? Any other places we want to send people today, Mitch?
Well, I mean, if they just want to know more about me, other than typing my name into Google, you can just go to mitchrusso.com.
Fantastic. mitchrusso.com. And there's the podcast. I was on it. Is that still going?
Oh man, it's going great. Yeah, I'm up to almost 250 episodes. We just started a second show called The Tribe Builders. So that will be premiering in about 2 weeks. So I have about 24 shows in the can already. It's awesome. It's amazing people. It's not the same as my other show. This is more of a community interview. It's more about people who build communities and real tribes as opposed to just CEOs and all the great stuff they do.
Well, you're an overachiever. You're always making new shows, making new things. So we have mitchrusso.com. We have the Tribe Builders coming out soon. There's the Power Tribe book. There's Clientfolio. So there's something for everyone in today's show, right? If you want to build those tribes, you want to hear about other people, or you just want to find out what Mr. Mitch Russo is up to these days with all the business building, with the fine tuning, the building amazing systems, then mitchrusso.com is the hub for all that. And before we sign off, wrap up, wind down here, Mitch, any parting words of advice or anything that you think people need to hear that just needs to stick with them? Any one or two sentences come to mind?
Just really one idea, and it's very simple. And I keep sharing this because I really want to inspire people with it. Nobody really fails until they quit. And my goal in talking to people is to help them understand that every time you fail, it's a step in a journey in a direction that you need to go. So I'm a big motivating factor when it comes to pivoting instead of failing. So I prefer to take a failure and dissect it for what I learned and then move up and try something new, using what I just learned. So don't fail, pivot. That's my parting words for you.